But it's time now for the Great British Debate this hour, and I'm asking, should Sir Tony Blair be stripped of his knighthood? Now, it's as a public inquiry reveals that the ex-Labour Prime Minister was warned about the flawed Horizon system at the centre of the Post Office scandal. And we now know that he was told the IT software was possibly unreliable before he gave it the go-ahead. And after ex-Post Office boss Paula Venables gave her CB back, and with calls for Liberal Democrat leader Sir Ed Davey to return his knighthood, I'm asking, should Sir Tony Blair be stripped of his? Well, I'm joined now by former Labour adviser James Matthewson and political commentator Suzanne Evans. I'm going to start with you, David Matthewson. James even, sorry, not David.
I know,
I've changed your name.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, it's a difficult one, this. I mean, I would say that there are many other things Tony Blair should be considered having his knighthood stripped for before this. There should have been a discussion before this previously. However, I think it's very unlikely that we're going to see a situation where a former Prime Minister is stripped of this, because obviously they're going to say that the achievements and the reasons why he was awarded that knighthood were so significant and so diverse, being a Prime Minister, with his services to the country as a whole, that he's unlikely to see that challenged. I can see why people are asking the question. I think it's important. We need to know exactly what he knew and when, and how this stands for the Labour Party going forward. And it does, unfortunately, make a lot of people on the Labour side very frustrated, because once again, there was almost like an open goal. There was a chance to attack the government, hold them to account, especially to bring Ed Davey into the mix. Fantastic, because you rarely get to have a go at the Lib Dems. And then all of a sudden, it turns out that, you can't throw stones in glass houses. So I think it's a difficult situation. I don't think, however, it's going to result in Tony Blair handing anything back. But
do you think it should? Do you think he should be having to hand it back? I mean, there is, of course, the war in Iraq, which a lot of people are not happy about. That turned out to be something that, he got us into. And now this particular situation where he apparently knew that the software was not reliable, and with the subsequent things that happened, surely this is something that do you think he could be or should be?
I think when it comes to should, in my mind, we still don't know enough of what he knew and when and why. I do think those questions should be answered, and I think he should answer those questions. Yeah. And I think hopefully it'll become part of that inquiry, and we can pull everything together and ask these people in positions of power at the time, what did you know and when? Because that's what a proper inquiry should do.
Let's get Suzanne. I want to get Suzanne Evans in on this one. Suzanne Evans.
Yeah, so it's very interesting, Nanny. You've been running a great poll on X, the social media forum we used to call Twitter, asking whether he should be stripped of his knighthood. And I've been having a look at some of the replies that GB viewers have made to that poll, and it is quite astonishing. It is almost a universal yes. And of course, it's not just about the post office scandal, is it? We've already mentioned the war in Iraq. It's about that too. And so many people, I think, are quite rightly asking, well, why on earth was he given an honour in the first place, given his appalling record? Well, we all know the answer to that. It's gongs for the boys, isn't it? But never mind. So here we are. He's got his gong. I agree. It's probably not going to be stripped of him, but arguably it should be. He has got a track record of ignoring government advice. He clearly, we now know, ignored the advice on Horizon. Of course, we also know he ignored government lawyers' advice about the war in Iraq. He ignored the UN Security Council. He ignored Kofi Annan. He ignored his own lawyers and did what he wanted to do. Does he care about the post office scandal? He'll probably make all the right noises, but I personally can't see a man who was quite happy to be responsible for the death of countless numbers of civilians and British Armed Forces personnel getting worried about, 700 people going to jail?
Because the thing is, he would have known, if he knew that there was a situation with the software, then he could have easily found out more about what the situation was. Clearly, there are complaints and things going on as it stands. And it just feels odd that these people who knew about things that were not great with regard to this software perpetuated it, and it would appear that he didn't want to upset the relationship with, Fujitsu, which...
That's right. It's about those government contracts. It's about, the arm's length bodies that implement them, your hands of government responsibility. I mean, the long list of people who've been involved in this scandal is absolutely shocking.
Yeah.
The people turned a blind eye, the people that wouldn't meet with people, the people that wouldn't listen to the people that were raising the red flag. You know, Ed Davey not even listening to one of his own sub-postmaster constituents. It is just a shocking scandal. It's been called one of the largest miscarriages of justice in British history. And it's impossible to argue with that. It is quite shocking. Heads should roll. Whether any do or not remains to be seen.
Well, that's right, Suzanne. I mean, I'm looking on the poll now. We asked, and there's a poll on X asking, should Sir Tony Blair be stripped of his knighthood? And at the moment, 91% of people say yes, and 9% of people say no. And as you said, there are lots of people commenting. Anthony says, I don't know how the hell that bloke was deemed worthy of getting one in the first place. Lisa said he should never have got it in the first place. You know, this is what people are saying. But I understand that you don't think that it would happen at all. Because you don't think that because he got it for other things as well, but he didn't really have much. I mean, once he was Prime Minister, he did some good things, but there were a lot of other things that he did badly. Sir James, why do you think that wouldn't happen? It might.
He did. Tony Blair's government did do great things, and it did achieve great things. You know, I make no bones about that. As a Labour person who grew up under those governments myself and saw the direct influence of them, you know, as the child of a single parent at the time, our lives were revolutionised by that government. However, Tony Blair's personal investment in ego projects, various, you know, easily influenced by, you know, George Bush at the time and various other things that, you know, especially on the foreign policy stage, that rightly so, I think your viewers would say, why was he given a knighthood in the first place? Unfortunately, with the system that we work in, some heads are too big to roll, and this is one of them, I think. And what we see is, and what we should be questioned from this, is why and how this honour system works. Because if 91% of your viewers don't think he should have had it in the first place, then that tells you, unfortunately, that why was he given one in the first place? If the public have no say on the record of somebody who's been in power, and yet they just get them and then, crucially, can also give them away as well, then we see, unfortunately, a system of honours that makes no sense. And then you get these, you know, these people, the very people who, you know, the Horizon scandal has affected, community champions, people who've been, you know, stalwarts of kind of support in their own communities for years, being handed these little medals, you know, the little medals on the side of it, you know, whereas these big knighthoods go always to the people who've been at the top of the tree.
Is it perhaps not about time to make an example of Sir Tony Blair and show others that you can have these things stripped away? Because it can't be that you get it and then when things come up in your past, whilst you've been doing the job, it turns out you've been doing some things that really aren't quite right, that the opportunity of it being stripped should be there. Suzanne, final word to you.
I totally agree. Yes, absolutely. And of course, what would be really good would be to see a politician just for once saying, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. I got this honour, I made a mistake, I'm handing it back. But I'm afraid, I think that for Tony Blair, he could have a whole collection of moral compasses, but he wouldn't find a moral one.
Thank you very much, Suzanne. Really good to talk to you. Thank you to Suzanne and also James Matthewson. Good to talk to you both, Suzanne Evans.